Okay, so welcome to this week's call, everybody. My name is Jackie Boyle, and I have the pleasure each week of being able to introduce Dr. Joseph Ahrens, dual-nominated Nobel Prize scientist, and a wealth of knowledge into a lot of areas of health and well-being. And this particular topic that we had this week, we're talking about brain health and the benefits that flavonoids may or may not have for our brains from the moment of conception through to the last day that we take our breath. And before I let Dr. Ahrens come on board with us and start to share this knowledge, we are not aiming to provide anything that is going to heal, cure, and or mitigate any conditions or diseases, merely to support the body to heal itself. So how are you, Dr. Ahrens?
I'm doing great. I mean, look behind me. This is a photo I took, of just a few minutes ago. Well, I took it like a week ago, but at the same time, this is where I live. So how can I not be good? And all of you that say, "Oh, I'm jealous of that." Hey, come on, you're welcome here. Come on, just give me enough notice so I won't be here when you arrive. So thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here.
Okay, well, I'll let you, today's topic, like we are talking about something that it does lead into a lot of areas, and a lot of people don't even think about our brain as being something that's very important to us until something happens to it. But it is something that we need to nurture and fuel and feed even as a young age. And most importantly, I think it starts right from our children at that age, because we need to nurture them. So we need to fuel it with correct food choices, and also it's environmental, it's emotional, it's physical, it's all of those aspects. But I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Ahrens, so you can share how we can actually support brain health and why it's important, and you can take it away. It's your area, not mine.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. So we've been talking a lot about flavonoids lately, and I want to repeat that concept that flavonoids are just like a vitamin in your body. They are needed for your growth and development, and for your inflammatory system and your response against diseases. They're needed in your body. They're not something that you take that's extra to your body. That's a very important concept. These are not like some weird plant that's found out in the middle of a desert in Egypt, or like water that drips off an iceberg and you pay $250 for that bottle. No, flavonoids should be part of your normal diet. And those flavonoids, just like all the other vitamins, have a role in your everyday life. Just sitting here breathing. You're exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide. That's a process. Your muscles moving, that's a process. Your heart beating, that's a process. Nerves flowing in and out, it's a process. And then the brain, lots of processes in there. Flavonoids are needed for all of these functions. Now, a vitamin like vitamin C and vitamin D, they are good antioxidants in general, just like flavonoids are good antioxidants in general, but they have very specific roles in things like calcium moving in and out of your body. It's vitamin C, that was one of the first discovered vitamins that was in citrus. They found out it kept your teeth from falling out. So, and vitamin D was discovered that helps process calcium to build your bones. And flavonoids were neglected for decades because it was difficult to pinpoint a specific activity that flavonoids did. It wasn't just, one disease or malfunction, your teeth falling out. Take oranges and limes and then your teeth don't fall out. That was very simple. But flavonoids are even more important than those vitamins because they do a lot in your body, a lot of things. They support your immune system. I've talked about that. They help with muscle function and recovery, which also actually is in part of the inflammation and immune system. When you exercise, I think most people on this call realize you are tearing muscle fiber, actually micro tears. And then your body sees it as a wound and builds back the muscles even stronger. That's actually what's going on. And flavonoids are part of that wound repair system. So yes, absolutely, you need flavonoids to help you when you're exercising and build your muscles. And I think maybe that's a shock to some people, that when you exercise, you're tearing your muscles. Well, that is actually part of the process. Tear the muscles and it rebuilds, because your muscles work like that, in and out. And you tear that, it repairs itself, and now you got bigger muscles. That's why you get pumped, you know? And so flavonoids, because as I preach to this choir here, flavonoids are part of that wound repair and inflammatory response. I bet you people didn't really know your muscles building is part of the inflammatory response. Yes, it is. But brain, let's get into the number one organ in here. And actually the brain is composed of several organs. We've got the right and left hemisphere. We've got the frontal lobes and back, cerebellum, and et cetera, and the hippocampus, and all these other things I had to memorize in college. I'll just say, let's just look at it as a whole. What's going on in that brain? You've got, number one, nerves talking one to another. And of course, in the brain, it's the most highly concentrated bunch of nerve fibers. And then you include the spinal cord. Everything else is feeding into that. This is where the most intense activity happens. Flavonoids support the message going from one nerve fiber to the next. These are dendrites. And then there you've got a synaptic gap. And it's a little bit smaller than that. But you send a signal down here, down this nerve, and it jumps to the next nerve, and that gap is regulated by flavonoids. It's actually a process. If you describe it, it seems like it would take a long time. You send an electric signal down the nerve, which is usually controlled by either potassium or sodium, and then it hits all these little vacuoles in the end of that nerve and causes the vacuoles. Vacuole just means little round bodies that hold a chemical, and glutamate is inside there, and then it's released and it flows across that gap to the other side. When it hits that side, it causes an electric signal to go down that nerve. Well, that seems like that would take a long time, but it is microseconds. It's amazingly fast. That sounds like it should take quite a while. You know, when I go to my next island down here, I got to go all the way in the road and then get in a boat, and then we motor over to the next island, then we get off, and then we get in the car. It takes like 5 hours. No, that's just like thousandths of a second, thousandths. And some of these things are in tens of thousands. And, we found out that a lot of people that have trouble, like in Parkinson's, okay, I'm going to stop right here again and repeat what you just said. We're not claiming that we're treating any diseases. What we're saying is we're supporting your body's function. And so in something like Parkinson's disease, that jump across there gets caught up in a loop. It's like the signal going down here, and they get on the little boat to go across, but instead of going across, they get caught in the current and they go back to the original nerve. And that's why people with Parkinson's, the first example is they shake, because that nerve function just keeps firing over and over and over and never getting over to the next nerve for a smooth function. Well, flavonoids control that flow across there. That's one of their major functions. So people take flavonoids and they say, wow, my Parkinson's is much better. You healed me of Parkinson's. No, that is not true. You probably have that issue because you just don't have enough flavonoids in your diet. Now, I don't want to oversimplify serious diseases. Please, I'm not saying that. I'm also not saying you take flavonoids and your life is going to be perfect from now on. What I am saying is your body is not able to respond to a lot of its injuries whether they are from outside physical injuries or even internal things because of some problem with your genome or your DNA, they cannot function properly because you probably don't have enough flavonoids in your diet. One of the reasons I know that is because if you go back a few hundred years and look at the flavonoids that were in our diet, it was a lot. There were a lot of flavonoids. All these ancient fruits and berries had a lot of flavonoids. And now we pick the best ones and we bred them to be bigger and sweeter, and there's not very many flavonoids in there. Today, the number one fruit that has the most flavonoids is muscadine grapes. Muscadine grapes, and you know those are some of the darkest berries, deep black blueberries, those ancient ones that are so small you don't even want to eat them because they don't taste very good. Great, you can find those in the woods sometimes. And also Concord grapes, you know, Concord, I don't know, Jackie, if you had that grape down south, but it's a globular grape and it's just deep black. It's so rich in flavonoids. These grapes, like green grapes, they don't have hardly any flavonoids in them. They're just like nature's Kool-Aid. They're popping the Kool-Aid. But these dark berries, but even if you had those available to you, like muscadines and concords, you'd have to eat so many of them. I've said this before, like 10 kilograms a day. And then because they're grapes, you'd have to spend your whole life on the toilet. So you can't do it. That's why we say you need to supplement your diet with flavonoids. I will remind people, flavonoids come from the colored parts of fruits and vegetables. So that's where it is. It's all mostly in the peel. Don't throw those peels away. You know, if you peel an apple, as an example, and just eat the inside, there's nothing in there. There's hardly not any vitamins. They're all in the peel. Eat the peel. Eat the colored parts. All right, so getting back to this story, that is just one thing. Flavonoids help the nerve jumping across that. That's a really easy explanation of why people that have something like Parkinson's have an issue. You can say, oh, they, you know, at least try before you get on some artificial drugs that all have some poisonous aspect to them. At least try getting on flavonoids and you'll see a remarkable improvement. Okay, the next really important thing is memory. Memory is, just like our computers. We've learned that it is our computers and the chips, the solid state drives, they hold a charge, the positive and negative. But what our brain does, it holds positive and negative charges, but it's also, they're kept in their place, so to speak, by a lot of chemistry. Just like in the nerve, where it was an electric charge going down the nerve fiber, then it turned into a chemical release. The chemical went across the synapse, and then it caused another charge to be generated and continued on. This whole electric process in our brains is regulated by chemicals. Okay, what do you think chemicals help regulate that and keep everything in its place? Flavonoids. That's another one of their important function in your body. So they cause that jump across the gap to work properly. They also, once your electric charges get to where they need in your brain, they also corral them. They don't work as an insulator. It's not like that. They're basically like, you could think of it as a harbor captain. They tell the ships where to park. And it's fascinating because, you know, it is, of course, for me, because I'm a biologist, a physiologist, I study the chemistry of life. That's what physiology means. How did that ever happen? That a flavonoid had these functions and a few more that I'll tell you later. How did that ever happen? Well, you know what? We just grew up together. It doesn't matter whether you think that God created us or it was instantaneous or whether it was evolution. That has nothing to do with it. This is how it was done. We were co-created. So either in the short term or over lots of years, we grew up together, and our bodies took on those outside chemicals that in our diets and used them for their own self, just like some of these vitamins are natural bug and disease repellents in plants. That's their function. They're not there to help us. You know, a plant is growing and it has its own defense systems. Well, we eat those, and they have the vitamin C and the vitamin D. We eat those, and as we were being developed, we took those systems into our own bodies as we developed, and take the vitamin C as an antioxidant, as example, and then it works in us just like it worked in the plant. That's really the most general description of why do we take plants and they help us. Also, the same thing with proteins. You know, proteins in plants or in other animals. We're an animal, we need protein. We had these diets around us. We use the protein that the plants made or the animal to incorporate into our own bodies. It was like a co-development. And the ones of us that were the most healthy and survived, they were the ones that were going back to those plants. And we started cultivating those plants. And the ones that did not provide us stuff, that we let them die. But the ones that we did like, and we found that, hey, this is a good thing for health, like an orange. We cultivated it. So that orange has survived because we liked it and we chose it. And we have survived because we liked the orange. We just liked it because it was sweet. Really, that's the truth. We didn't know anything else. We didn't know that it was doing all this stuff for our body, but that's how it works. And over a long time, we are here today, but we're not eating those original berries and stuff that we were designed to eat. So let's go back to and I'm going to be real sensitive on the time today, because, I looked at lots of my last videos and I get to talking, and we're supposed to just be here a half an hour. The first thing you know, it's 45 minutes. So I'm going to be cognizant of that, Jack, even though I know you give me those signals. And if I was in the room with you, you'd be kicking me under the table, but I'm going to stay on track. So I want to share something with you, because I told you anyone can come to this channel and get the truth about stuff. And it's not just my opinion. And it's certainly not because I'm trying to sell a product. I'm just not into that. You know where you can find these products that have a lot of flavonoids in them. I'm here to just tell you the truth about what you need to survive. And I'm a flavonoid prophet here. I think we have forgotten them. Most people don't recognize them. There's so much to be concerned with today. Look at the amount of information we're getting. Even a regular MD just can't keep up with all this information. And even Jackie, your own doctors would have never have known anything about flavonoids unless they saw how it was working with you, and then they contacted me and I met with them. Now they know. But other than that, there's no information coming to medical doctors that are prescribing these drugs and stuff. So we just have people get the word out. You have an experience. Don't just wait to come on these talks and share your experience. Tell everybody about what is going on here.
I want to ask you a question, Dr. Ahrens, because I am interrupting you, so I apologize, but I want to know, are you going to explain to us, because I'm not always the smartest tool in the shed, but for those that may also be wondering, how do the flavonoids get to the brain?
Well, flavonoids cross the blood-brain barrier. They're not a very large molecule. As I explained last week, they're just these two little phenolic compounds and all these OH hanging on the outside. They're relatively small molecule, and they actually cross the blood-brain barrier. They cross the placenta. So you take in orally flavonoids, and they go to your brain, and they go across the placenta to the developing child. So that brings us to the final part I want to talk about. And And I was getting ready to say, you know, I can just make all this stuff up, but I'm going to show you today a particular article that was written not too long ago, 10, 20, within the last couple of decades. And so we've known this for 20 years, and it's just now getting out. That's how, you know, we move slowly in this area, and we should move slow. We don't want to jump from this thing to that thing and then find out we were wrong. But we've known this stuff for 20 years. And so I'm going to try to share my screen with you. You know, you just taught me how to do it. So I'm going to do that. And it says, and boom, and there it is. And here is the first one I want to show with you. So this is an article that was written in the journal Genes and Nutrition. And this is a respected journal, scientific journal, where you submit your paper and other scientists tear it apart and tell you how you're an idiot and jerk. That's actually how it works. And then after it passes other scientists scrutiny, then it gets published. And this guy, Dr. Jeremy Spencer, he is in the College of Chemistry and Food at Reading University in UK. And people that know that this is a very well-respected university, University of Reading in the UK. And he wrote this paper in 2009. I think I want to show that. And so I am putting this on here because I know this is being recorded. So people will see this and they need to go ahead and look this up. You can go just type this, any of these work, type this title in, and you'll get the whole article. This is another reason I chose this article, because you don't just get the abstract. This link, when you type in flavonoids and brain health, multiple effects, that'll be enough. This will pop up in Google, and I'll show I'll give a screenshot of the actual article. Here it is. Here it is. Genes and Nutrition, 2009, December the 4th, page 243 to 250. So it's a 7-page article. It was published in 09 and August 15. So we've known this for a while. And here it tells this guy is part of the Molecular Nutrition Group, School of Chemistry, University of Reading. So he's not a fly-by-night guy trying to sell anybody something. So I'm going to just take 5 seconds so that when people look at this on the recording, they can actually copy it down. And you go to pubmed.org on Google and type this in, and this article will come up. So I want to, I'm going to go back to the first one I just showed you. Right here, boom, done. Wait, see, I know how to do it. And oh, I just said the same one I just did. That's great. I'm just giving you a double shot of that. So this paper went through all of the known science about flavonoids. And here are the two main issues that he brought up, is that flavonoids are highly protective in the brain. It talks about there's neurotoxins, basically brain poisons, that you are constantly being exposed to as a developing fetus from day one all the way to the time that you are, say, adios and slide into home plate. You're being bombarded with neurotoxins, and flavonoids suppress neuroinflammation. That is the story we've said all along in normal inflammation, but he's pointing out that specifically it suppresses neuroinflammation, and it also has the potential to promote memory, learning, and cognitive function. Here, I'm just reading this right out to you here. Flavonoids promote memory, learning, and cognitive function. So if you are a developing fetus, and we've known for a long time that it's just a few weeks that we can detect now neuroactivity in a fetus. And then we say, okay, well, you know, that's just a bunch of chemistry. Well, this is all chemistry. So it doesn't matter if you're 1 week old, 3 weeks old, or 1 week from in conception, or 1 week from birth, and now you're a month old, and now you're 3 years old, and then they start, my memory is starting to be, no, memory starts developing like a week after conception. You already start developing the brain mass that will become your actual brain. And flavonoids set that structure up. Remember I talked about the harbor captain was developing where the memory went, and that's how flavonoids build the harbor where the boats are going to come in, where the memories are going to come in. They build the harbor, and then later, when you're older, they conduct the boats in the right places. So this article goes actually very deep into how that happens, about how the neurosignaling works. Do you remember how I told you that the neurons are there, and the electric signal goes around and jumps across, and then it goes into depth about how that works in the developing brain, and how important it is to get that going, so that as you do grow older, that process happens automatically. It happens automatically, and then your memory, flavonoids build the harbor, so they don't. I mean, it is quite amazing. So they're conducting the signal. They're conducting that signal to go across the brain, the synapses in your nerves everywhere in your body, but particularly the brain. They're also then, once they get to the place they should be stored in your brain as a memory, well, they not only the harbor master, but they built the harbor itself. So what else could I say about, are flavonoids important to your brain? And you know what, people, I just 3 days ago was talking to a new person that got on some flavonoids, and he's a really healthy guy. He's 35, picture of health. And he says, I thought this was just bullshit. Somebody, my mother made me take it. He's 35 years old, and mother made him. Mothers have an influence your whole life. Anyway, he took this stuff and he said, I want to tell you something. It took me a while to recognize it, but the fog lifted off my brain, and I didn't even know I had a fog. That's the first thing I hear from everyone who is in good health. We heard earlier today, Jackie, that somebody had a pain and it's doing good. Well, they got a pain. They could identify it. But if you have a general fog, and you've had that fog your whole life, actually in the womb, you think that's normal, and you don't recognize anything going on. And he says, I actually said, I thought I was a little intoxicated, because everything was kind of weird. And he said, it's often like, he says, I had eyeglasses. He said, I went a long time without eyeglasses, and everything was normal. It wasn't too bad, but I got some eyeglasses, and everything's clear. And he said, wow, is this what the world really looks like? And he said the same thing with his brain. He said, I thought something's wrong. And I even worried about my balance, because I was just seeing things differently. I said, yeah, this is what's going on. Those synapses are now firing. And if you'd been on inulin in the womb, you'd be even in better shape than you are now. So your memory would already be improved. But don't worry about, that's in the past. Because you're always having these neurotoxins trying to attack your brain. Neurotoxins, poisons specifically, that do attack your brain. The flavonoids help that system. They also build the nerves in your body. They also build the places that your memory develop. You need flavonoids from cradle to grave.
Well, Dr. Ahrens, I can't say anything but thank you for really opening up a window of knowledge and an awareness for people. I'm I have to apologize to people because I'm getting a bit emotional with it, because everything that you are talking about, I can relate to. This isn't my call, but when we talk about brain fog, when we talk about memory, when we talk about being in the present and being aware, that was one of the very first things that I certainly had a huge awareness of in increasing flavonoids, bringing flavonoids into my daily regime. Made a huge difference. And as you mentioned, like you spoke with my specialist when you were out here 3 years ago, and it's changed my life in introducing those flavonoids on a regular basis and just playing around with them. And it was a mental clarity. It was the being able to stay task focused, of where all of a sudden it was like somebody just lifted that dark fog off of my thought patterns, and I'm living life. It just makes a huge difference for it. So I want to thank you so much. I hope each and every one of you has got a lot of information and understands the importance of how you've explained it, that needing to fuel our bodies, it does matter what our lifestyle choices are and what we choose to actually put into our bodies makes a huge difference. But knowing and having the knowledge of how you've explained it today, and knowing that these flavonoids do cross that blood-brain barrier is just a huge big tick to understand the importance of why we need them even more, because our brains are one of the first things that start to function for us from as a fetus. So it's very important right through. So is there anything that you'd like to add before we finish today?
Well, even when I repeat this stuff that I know, it brings me joy. I want to tell people these things because nobody knows it. Look, this paper is 2009. So what's that, 13 years ago? That's actually pretty new for medical field, because it'll probably be another 20 years before this becomes mainstream information. And we're slow to change. But I can tell you in the audience today, look, there it is. There's the paper. I told you I would never bring you any information that I could not back up with scientific proof. Everyone needs flavonoids. So if somebody, I don't know where to start in the whole chain here. If you're a young child, you're developing, you need flavonoids, because the flavonoids not only help with the processes, but they build the processes. That's so important. As your new cells are developing, new muscles, you're developing, and then you get into adolescence. Wow, there's a whole nother, we ought to talk about that one time, Jackie, about getting into puberty. And then start young adult. Hey, now you're still growing. Actually we grow right up to like 22 years old. When our bone plates get solidified, we're still really growing until then. Okay, then we start deteriorating, but it's a long process. Well, you need them then, and then you're going to start a family. All right, then we got to talk about, egg and sperm. They're growing, developing cells, the most rapid growing cells in our body. They need flavonoids to help them develop properly. And then go through your time as you start getting my age, you got a lot of those neurotoxins working on you. Yeah, you need them even more, because now your body is not as well replacing cells. You got to work with what you got, right? So we need flavonoids. So it just is a big circle all the way around. It's a never ending. There's no point ever that you don't need a flavonoid. And so that's what I say, you need to take them. And so as far as young children, as soon as they start solid foods, get them on flavonoids. Always choose those foods that are rich in flavonoids. Forget that applesauce, people. Come on, that's Kool-Aid. Get the dark stuff, even if it's yucky, the beets, all that stuff. Get the dark stuff and start supplementing with flavonoids.
So Dr. Ahrens, I want to really thank you. And for those that are on this call, as always, we truly, honestly do appreciate you turning up and showing up each week, because it means a lot to Dr. Ahrens. I know that. And I certainly appreciate it. And I hope that you've got something from this. I do want to put a plug in for you, Dr. Ahrens, because for those that are always concerned about sending in questions, where do I find out information? This man is a brilliant man. He doesn't like to be put up on a pedestal, but if you really want to understand the science behind what his work has been, go to his website, www.drjosephahrens, like drjosephahrens.com. And when you want to share information, it's all there for you, that you can actually have a greater understanding for where he comes from and why he has such a huge passion for what he wants to share with you. So thank you so much, Dr. Ahrens. I know I certainly feel it's just booted my enthusiasm into gear again, and I know why I am where I'm at and why I feel like I want to stand on top of a mountaintop for the last 6 years plus, like Dr. Ron Bossema Senior. And we just keep on singing it out to everybody that we can get to listen to it, because they are essential for everybody. And just lastly, we have not actually provided any information today that is aiming to heal, cure, and or mitigate anything. We're just rather trying to support your knowledge in how you can help your body heal itself. So thank you so much, everybody. I look forward to seeing you again next week, and certainly with Dr. Ahrens as well, to bring you another riveting topic that we hope that you're going to get something from. So have a great evening and a great afternoon and a great day. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.